What's going on, Juneteenth family?
I have to take the lead because if I don't now, when will I do it?
These are all grassroots mixes from since 90.
And risks are important. Risk creates results.
Make sure that you surround yourself with not only the word, but with positivity.
Foremost, for having me on for Lunch and Learn.
We start off by wearing all of the hats. Pun intended right there on the hats.
But we start special needs children and civilians.
I have over 30 years plus experience as a quality professional.
We basically reconstructing what we took part in deconstruct. All the street maintenance. That's how we came up with street maintenance.
I almost had to deal with MCA Records at the age of 19.
Wait a
I also partner with other daycares. We're not in a competition yet. We're not in a competition.
Hello. Happy Thursday, everyone. It's Thursday. It is the last Thursday of the month. The year is going by so fast. My name is Athenia Rodney. I am the CEO and founder of Juneteenth NYC. I feel like I need to make it like a whole organization like back in the day. Well, not even back in the day. It's like, the fraternities and sororities. I'm not in one, so this is why I'm doing this. But yeah, something like that. But anyway, today is Thursday. It is the 29th. It is the last Thursday. And we have a very special guest that I'm really excited for this year because he's not just one of our guests. Well, he's also a family member of mine that we just found out about. So that is pretty dope. So welcome everyone to our Lunch and Learns. We're really excited to have Mahmoud Fleary with us today for our session on intentionality while at the table. Oh, that's real good. Being your true Black voice, and we know that, and especially in our communities, that is not always as easy as we would like for it to be. So I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about that. Mahmoud brings a ton of experience from his work at the Boys Club of New York, where he's been making a real difference by building strong community connections and creating meaningful programs. In addition to his professional achievements, Mahmoud is also one of our esteemed Juneteenth New York City Black Kings awardees, which we are very excited about, and we were glad to be able to honor him. He was recognized for his dedication and contributions to the community. Today, he'll share practical advice on staying true to your authentic Black voice. If we can put your hands together as we welcome Mahmoud Fleary to the stage. Hello, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm so excited. Thank you so much.
No problem.
I'm nervous. I'm always nervous, so don't worry about me. I'll get comfy as I get into the interview. Yeah, no worries.
No problem. Okay, so let's think about. So we've been in a number of different spaces lately. So think about this as a team meeting that we're having. But welcome. We thank you for joining us, and we're really excited. We just had an amazing event this past weekend with our back to school event. So we are hands down really thankful for the partnership with that. And to get us started, can you share a time when you had to be very intentional about asserting your voice in a professional setting?
I think it was it depends. So it was one time where I was kind of involved in a budget discussion, and it was affecting a program that I didn't directly oversee, but I recognized it's true potential in the community, and I had to assert my voice to ensure all the adjustments that were made with the community had the best interest of the community in mind. So what that resulted in was more inclusivity through the decisions that I made for that, and again, I didn't really, it wasn't my program, but I knew that, I was in that room and I had to bring my perspective from my community And that's one of the times where I was able to be impactful when it involved the budget piece of it.
So let me back up a little bit too. So tell us how you even got to be like the director of the boys club. How did that all come about?
So I started out so I went to LIU. I got my undergrad and my master's from LIU in media management. I thought I was going to be like this production person, or like working in music, which I did. I worked at Atlantic Records. I worked at Def Jam. I worked for the major art. I worked for their film production. City of Film and Production. I was the assistant to the commissioner, and then from that, by the time I graduated, I was always working as like a manager, supervisor, very young. So I just started out working in the federal government for the grants department as a very young grants manager, overseeing a bunch of different grants. Then after that 4 years, I was in 9/11 happened, and then I stayed at the Fed for like maybe 4 years, and then transitioned into fitness. And so I stayed in fitness for about 7 years. I went through all the different levels of, customer service manager, sales manager, things like that. And I think after that, after that, I jumped into nonprofit school management, and I worked for Statistics Academy, public prep, Brooklyn Prospect schools. I worked for NYCHA as a director of operations and contract managers. And then one day COVID hit, and I was saying I'm not working anywhere because I had to stay home. And I was working as an interim director of operations for a Sculpta School of Design. And with that brought me closer to working with schools and understanding the funding portion of how schools were getting money, and that put me in touch with those people. So I was staying there. I was not going anywhere. It was a remote job. The first time ever I was able to do direct operations remotely. And then my sister-in-law, avian artist Fleary, she forwarded me over this job description, and I was reluctant to apply. I took about 3 weeks to apply, because I was in Michigan, working for Michigan, and I live from Brooklyn, and this was the first time ever, and I applied. And when I applied, they called me, and then at that point, I said that I didn't really care if I got this job or not. It was just a job for me. It was just being a director, and it wasn't really I work remote, and this is the best thing ever, 5 days a week. So when I got onto the interview, I was 100% myself. I was truly, honestly, very raw who I am. This is who you're gonna get. All through the interview, I was telling my wife, I'm not getting this job. I'm not getting it. I was just, being 100% my truest self, especially, with people going through COVID and things like that. And me working remotely, I was just over everything, taking care of the kids and schooling and things like that. And then they called me and I interviewed. So I'm interviewing, and again, 100% true. I went through 3 interviews, and as the interviews went on and on and on, I became truer to myself more than usual. And after every interview, I'm telling my wife, I'm not getting this job. There's no way I'm getting this job, because I'm just so much being like me. And I got the call, and and I interviewed with the developers and everything else. And the Boys Club in New York, I interviewed. I didn't even know who I was interviewing with. I was just myself. And then they offered me the position. So I came into the Major Owen Center. It was not even built out. It was still under construction. Oh, wow. And, being an entrepreneur and knowing what it is, over COVID, I also helped out small businesses and things like that through my management company that I run, and understanding what it is to run, and working in charter schools. Sometimes the charter schools were newer, so I would have to implement procedures, IT infrastructure, structures, rebuilding schools from scratch, just building up new schools. So when they brought me to this construction site, but I saw how big the building was, I was like, you guys are hired. You want me to do this? And so I just went back into all the things that should I take my glasses off? I feel like it's reflecting. Take my glasses off. I just remembered all of the different things I just told everyone about like everywhere I came from and what I did, and then I just used that to to integrate that here. And the first call to action was to hire a good team, and that's what hold on, that's right. Caesar. I'm live. You have to.
Well, why you talking to your team?
That's right. So
No,
then I just had to like make sure that I used what I knew. And I wasn't confident. I wasn't confident about what I knew because I never was in a position like this. I never knew that. I thought a director. I've been a director before, but I didn't know the level
of directorship that this was gonna to lend itself to.
Right. And then once I realized, after we got through all like everyone's getting used to me, we getting used to each other. I'm dealing with a developer. I'm dealing with BCNY. I'm dealing with third-party vendors. I'm dealing with 11 different nonprofit organizations, all executives, like CEOs and executive directors. And mind you, I've dealt with those people on like 1 or 2 level, but when you're dealing with 11 at one time, when you're dealing with the head developers, when you're dealing with, my direct supervisor was Carlos. He hired me. He's the chief programming officer. He's now the CEO, the executive director of POW, and then it's now Stephen Tosh, who's the executive director of BCNY. Going through all those transitions, I thought I was going to make it.
So Mama, you talked about a lot, right? You talked about a lot of spaces that you led in, and a lot of spaces where you, as a Black male, had a seat at the table. What in your mind has been, I guess, so would you say that because you have been, especially in this space where you are, you were leveled up, like you came into a space, and I'm sure you got to put your suggestions into where things would be created, or you were coming in from the beginning, like you said, the shell was still being created. So how do you feel like that put you at the table, and did you bring anybody else with you?
I didn't know that. So it was one day I was in a meeting, and so first, did I bring anybody with me? Yes, right. I always try to go back into my community, and it was a big thing of like hiring for my community. But I wanted to hire for my community, but once I realized, what the type of positioning that I had to make sure that people that I brought with me, it was people of color that I brought with me that were able to be in that room and be able to speak confidently, right, without any fear within that room. So I hired a Black woman first, right, Casey Selby. Apple took her from me after 11 months, but I worked with her back in Blink Fitness. And me working with Casey Selby and Blink Fitness, she was always confident. It didn't matter if she was in a room with a man or a woman or whoever. She was always just very, very just even killed, and she could shut down a room. And that was amongst men, amongst women, amongst whoever it is. And that was my appeal. And she was and her club, me and her were always at competition, at Blink Fitness. So that's the first person I thought about as to be my direct operations. And I also wanted to make sure I had a woman with me to help me run this facility, because she came along with a lot of expertise. And so that was that. And then I also brought Cesar Gonzalez with me. Now, Cesar Gonzalez is my operations manager, but initially he was my operations lead. Cesar, he worked for the Boys Club for a long period of time, and I thought, why should I not hire him? Because he has the insight that I don't have from the BCNY side. So I started out with just 2 people first, and it was basically Cesar and I and Casey who literally had to put all of this together. And that was the most challenging times, just because it was brand new. and there's new personalities, and you never know. This was a real space of actual business. It wasn't really structured. It was just whatever came along, figure it out, and make it work.
So Mahmoud, so define for me what a seat at the table even is.
It's just being in a room. So I'm in the room with CEOs. I'm in the room with executive directors. I'm in the room with associate board presidents. I'm in the room with like the executive Jewish boards. I'm in the room with CFOs, and I've been in the room with these people, but not actually in the room, right? Like I'm in the room when people are, the conversations are getting really intense, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm just like, at first I'm just like, what is going on? And I, being a black man and a black boy and a black teenager, it was always told to me, or it was always insinuated to where we should be quiet, right? Like we never should stir the pot. We never should kind of speak up because we just want to get it. We want to get along, right? We want to make sure that we do our jobs, and we don't want to seem like as we're confrontational. And that's what initially I started to do. But then it was one meeting I was having with they would be doing a big event, and I remember a big event, and I remember that from working in the field on like TV sets, how we should run the shows, and making sure everything's organized. And everybody at the table was just like, "How are we going to do it?" And it was a simple thing, and I was like, "This guy just put a run a show together," and everybody was like. Everybody looked at me and was like, okay. And I was like, okay. I was like, okay. And that's when I knew that I had some type of voice, and people did not know different portions of business like I knew it. And that right there gave me the confidence to push on and to show and to continuously show that I had the confidence, the knowledge, and it also, it was not just me. My team of people make me confident. They help me, they support me, they give me insight that I need to help me once I'm out. I'm in the room, and then I bring them. And at first I thought I couldn't bring them in the room with me, but then I started to bring them in with me in the room, because they also were an important factor of the voices, right? The diversity, of people, of the minority people in the room. We have the perspectives of the community, and
I love that. So you talked a little bit about some challenges, and you talked about a strategy that you use. But what on higher levels, if not the same, have you used? What are some strategies you've used to navigate this space that you have found yourself in when you've been put in spaces of adversity? So you talked about the spaces where you have been able to create your own community, bringing people to the table with you. So what about spaces that were more not in an easy space or easy conversation? What strategies have you used as a Black male, and then now as a director role, to navigate those spaces?
I mean, I'm finding allies within the organization, people who understand my perspectives, focusing on there's clear and consistent communication to show my voice is kind of heard, and then building bridges, right, through empathy and education, and creating an understanding and a respect and respect perspectives, right? Those are the different strategies that I use in those spaces, and I think again, it's still staying true to myself, but learning how to navigate it. And I'm not saying that it was it was easy. Right away I knew that I had to understand the landscape of where I was at. I had to understand who were my allies, and I didn't understand the political piece of this because I was never in politics, right? So I come from running schools for 5 years, running gyms for 7 years, being at the federal government, just working with grantors, and I was never political. And so now, and that's a very tricky place to be. And I think now this year is when I really started to understand, what it meant to be my positioning, and what it actually meant, and what I could actually do, and how me being me when I walk into the room of like, I don't know, I mean, some of these elected officials, and just being myself worked.
Yeah.
It reminded me like when I was working for Atlantic Records, and I was always in a room with all of these like artists and things like that. And inside, I was like, oh my God. But I was just very regular. And I was very regular. You know, I met like people that I adored and I loved as artists and musicians. And I couldn't be like that. But I was very normal and regular. Hey, how you doing? My name is Mahmoud. And being myself made our bond stronger. So that's what I'm using now. And that's the kind of tactic I'm using now, or approach I'm using now to again build strong relationships and make sure that people feel like know that I'm very intentional and I'm being authentic when I'm having discussions with them. Yeah.
So it's funny that as you were sharing how you applied for the job, and I was like, most of the jobs that I applied for that I got, I had that kind of nonchalant, like, oh, I'm just going to apply. Let me see what happens. But it wasn't like, oh, this is like my passion. I want to do this job. But it turned out it was the place that I needed to be in for whatever reason. So I'm like, whatever is God's will, let that continue to be done. So one of the things that you kind of started to touch on is like how to be or how you were in getting this job and how you continue to be the same person in different spaces. So what advice would you give to someone who is just starting out their career and struggling to express their authentic voice in a professional setting?
Just know who you are and knowing that you're supposed to be there. And I know that's like it's a blanket statement of knowing who you are, because like everybody comes from different backgrounds and kind of different, cultures and things like that. But like that makes a difference, right? Because you bring different perspectives. So, again, find that ally, building strong relationships with the people in your team that you're working with. I think that's one of the biggest things that you can do when you're in these spaces, and it's going to be scary. It's going to be you're going to be nervous, especially when you start out your career. I remember I was working at the federal government, and I was young, and I was like, I want to. I'm interning for the grants department, but let me just see what else is out there. I said, let me send an email to like my boss's boss, which is like a no-no, right? And I was so young, I didn't know. But I just want to ask the question, were there other opportunities available, right? Because my background not in like grants management and and funding, but I know I had that background. I was like 21 to 22 years old, coming from working at KFC as a shift supervisor, right? Like, so I get it. It's learning as I go. And my direct supervisor came in, was very disrespectful, came in with the email and tossed it at my desk.
Oh,
right?
wow.
And I laughed hysterically because again, I'm like, who is this guy? And who do he think he is? And I laughed at him. And like, I don't know who you think, like, because I never was growing up, I was never taught about like really truly racism. I was never raised like that. I was just taught to be a human person. And so I was never ever mistreated, and so when that person did that to me, that made me be myself, like just 100%. Like I didn't care who you are. I don't care about your title. I don't care. Even right now, I don't care about any titles. Titles mean nothing to me. I care about the human person, right? That's standing in front of me. So the best advice is just to be yourself. Find your allies, be comfortable in your space, and if it's not the right space for you, just say it. And it's not the right space. Just try to find the right space for you.
Now you talked about knowing yourself. Can you share some ways that you have? I mean, because I know my journey of even learning about my own history is still ongoing. But the biggest part of that for me didn't start until I went to college. Because in my household, I was in a melting pot house. My mother being born in Venezuela, grew up in Grenada and Trinidad. And my father is very Southern and Indian American. And so, you know, they both cooked, we both listened to music in both spaces. So when I went to college and I'm going to, you know, a group, an affinity group, and they're like, oh, this is for the Caribbeans. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is how I make macaroni and cheese. And it was like, ew, you don't make macaroni and cheese like that. And I'm like, well, how you make it? And they were like, oh, we make it like this. And then I go to a Hispanic group and they were like, oh, why you make macaroni and cheese like that? And I'm like, what do you mean? And so, you know, for me, it took going to college and being put in different spaces, even going to Spelman for a year, where I learned more just about being African American, like what that meant. And, you know, I was shielded, like you, like you said, you know, I didn't feel like I experienced things, but it wasn't until I went to college and the light was shown. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, that school was poor. Like, I didn't realize that. So were the experiences or things that you kind of, you engaged with that helped you to understand more about who you were as a person?
I mean, my friends, like the people I had around me, like I mean, and there's people I had around me, and I was, it just helped me to just be myself. Like I was always having, like the friends I have around me are the friends I still have now, and I've had friends, and these friends have been friends for like 30 years, and I met them, and who I am. I have a friend who's a VP, Rohan Lewis, is a VP over at New York Life, and we used to sit 13 years old in East New York talking about finance and all that, right? Like that was cool. And he's now this big person at VP at New York Life that creates the products for New York Life, right? Like I have a friend who's like an educator and he's just like pushes you to think, right? And like helping you to really understand like certain things. And there's a two-way dialogue. You know, I have friends that were drug dealers, and like I looked up to them because they were so much of a hustler and they never gave up and they always had to think on their feet. And you know, in school and college, a lot of my friends were that, but they were one of the smartest people in the room. And I was saying, and I looked up to them because I said that I wouldn't do what they do as their choice of making money, but I said figure out ways I can look like them, you know, but have the nice cars, but do it my way, right? And like, but I mean, I think that was one of my greatest influences, you know, because they showed me to hustle. They showed me to like you can be up and down, and you can get right back up again if you just keep on trying. And you know, my mentors, you know, I remember I was working for the EPA again, and I had my dreads, and the white lady was like, "Hey, why don't you need to like comb your hair?" And I'm like, "No." I said, "Does your hair grow like that?" I said, "So mine does too." Like, like when people try to like, they don't know, or they just like, they don't know that they're being like rude or things like that or inappropriate. I just let them know this is like, as I was growing my hair when I was getting dreads, they were like, "Is it the time for a haircut?" I said, "Is it time for your haircut?" Like, you know, my hair grows out of my head the same way it does with you. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So and that is I can go down a whole nother route with the whole hair thing and but we want to come back to that. We are gonna go to a commercial in a moment, but before we do, I did want you to talk a little bit about your community building and how you have been able to bring different organizations together. So how would you say you've been able to foster a sense of cultural pride and authenticity with your teams?
Just having meetings with them and letting them know what the community, letting them know what the community is saying. Helping, being the voice of the community, my team being the voice of the community, and because initially bringing those teams together, 11 different organizations in this building, and they're not necessarily all directly from this community. So just being able to bring perspectives from me living in Crown Heights, my parents from Crown Heights, me moving back to Crown Heights when I was 15 from Canarsie, to here, and being a little boy walking past the same building and nothing was here, being stopped by the cops and understanding at 14, 15 years old every single day and for no reason. And like understanding that perspective, understanding like the environment of the gun violence and all of the different things that were happening, but also understanding like back in the day when I was growing up, there were community cops who were actually great and was in the community and trying to help people understand that. So partnering with NYPD, partnering with all the tenants and organizations in this building to help them understand that that's what we're here for, and then understanding the mission of the Major R. Owens Center and what they essentially put us here for, and just holding that always in the back of my mind, just to make sure that we kind of that's what was leading us forward, and that's what helped us make all of our decisions.
Ooh. So you're gonna go to commercial, but when we come back, I want you to tell us what the mission of the Major R. Owens Center is, and even how we got its name. Like I think that story, it would be great. We are gonna go to a commercial. One of our sponsors who works with us. This is all about health. Like this space is all about how we empower our African American community. And our biggest concern is about what we do and we don't do and what we don't know. And a lot of people don't know New York State of Health is the New York organization that is over all of the, I guess, health organizations. And what they do is they create some of the programming that goes out there. And then it's some of these other health organizations that come in and they do the work. So we'll see a commercial about the new program that they have that they're rolling out, and we'll be right back.
Is essential, and so are you. Affordable healthcare is $0 monthly premiums and no deductible. Coverage for sick visits, tests, prescription drugs, hospital care, as well as free dental and vision coverage. Affordable healthcare is the Essential Plan. More New Yorkers than ever are now eligible for the Essential Plan. Apply today at nystateofhealth.ny.gov.
All right. So welcome back, everyone. I hope that you can join and check out some of that platform to see what health insurances might be available to you at low or no cost. But like I said, I promised before, tell us a little bit about Major R. Owens and what's the mission, how did it get its name?
All right, so Major Owens, he was born in 1936, passed away in 2013. He's a politician, he's a librarian. He serves in the United States House of Representatives from 1983 to 2007. Then he served in the 11th and 12th Congressional District. And then he was the first person elected replacing the retiring Representative Shirley Chisholm, right? And what he did was that he, his goal was to bring things like this, programs and things like this to our community. He was a person that spearheaded, equal rights and making sure that, people in our community had access to things. And I am assuming this is why the advisory committee, Jill Coelho, we had Eric Woodland, we had Unella from the advisory committee, and Valerie Fleming. They had an advisory committee that decided on what the name of the building should be based on the community that it was representing, and and what district directly. So district Community Board 9 is the actual district that the Major R. Owens Center is in. So they wanted to have a place where people can go to be a safe haven. And that was one of the biggest things about Major Owens. He wanted to, he wanted us to help people, and that's one of the reasons why I think that they named this center the Major R. Owens Health and Wellness Community Center. Not only Major Owens, but it also includes health and wellness, right? Because the mental stability, of people, and health is important. But just wanting to bring in the full community and making sure that people had access to things they never had access to before, and making sure it's affordable.
That makes a lot more sense now that you said all of that, and especially with all of the programs that you have. And I don't know if you have the list in front of you, but can you share some of the organizations or the partners that you have inside the Major Homeless Building?
We have New Heights Youth. They are a basketball organization, right? They work with top performing basketball players from all across the country. We have Imagine Swimming, swim organization that teaches kids, adults how to swim. We have Global Sports, who is a soccer organization who they just do all types of things when it comes to soccer. They teach kids how to play soccer. They do a bunch of flag football for the community, and just for adults and things like that. They have games that people from the community can come in and rent the spaces out. We also have a Fatayo Cultural Arts Academy. They're upstairs. They do a bunch of like capoeira, spoken word. They do dance. Like, it's amazing. You have Brooklyn Community Pride downstairs. They are representing the LGBTQ plus community. So in Crown Heights, it's a mosh. It's like a melting pot of cultures. So strong cultures, right? So for Brooklyn Community Pride, to be in the building, and people from all these strong cultures that may have had parents or people that were okay with their decisions and their genders and things like that. This is a great place for them to come to be more comfortable, and be able to talk to people about these things. We have Efatayo upstairs. We have Digital Girl, and Digital Girl provides programming to the adults, seniors, kids, programming, cybersecurity. You have Viatica that has so many different programs for the community. One of the programs that we partnered with them, with Viatica, was that we put it together like a jewelry making, costume, cooking, kind of boxing class for 6 weeks this summer. But they do all these great different things. They have the mocha jumbies, and they have the still pan that they show people how to play, and they have the still walkers, and they have classes. So many different things. They have the Carrie Kabay Foundation. Carrie Kabay, he was an attorney that got shot right here at Ebbets Field. And so right behind me through this window, it's called the Carrie Kabay Recreational Center, right? The funding was given for that because he was here, and he worked in this community, and he did care about our community and making sure people had equal rights, right? And you have the James E. Davis Foundation, the James E. Davis Foundation. Jeffrey Davis is his brother, James E. Davis. He's a politician that got shot on the stairs of City Hall. So they do a lot with Stop the Violence. Carrie Kabay and the James E. Davis Foundation for Stop the Violence. But Carrie Kabay also does health and wealth. They do wellness classes, yoga. They bring karate. They bring Pilates. They bring all these great things within the building. Boys Club in New York. We're the operating agent, but we're also essentially overseeing the entire building. That's all the common spaces. We help put together a lot of the fitness programs. We put together a lot of the fitness classes. We make sure that things are cost, people have access to it. We make sure there's sliding scales based off of incomes, because again, in the back of my mind, or the back of our mind, is all about access. We brought the first ever rhythmic gymnastics program to Crown Heights. That was unheard of. And that's brand new. We brought that maybe under our kind of umbrella 2 years ago. And it's just more things that we're going to add to it as we grow. It's only been our third year, but it still seems like our first year, because we're now getting going. And now, I say now getting going.
Third year. This sounds like y'all have been going for years for all of the stuff that you have happening. This is really great.
The first year was COVID. So first year was COVID, and no one really came into the building. We opened up in 2021 of November. Okay. So people were coming in, but not really until like March, April of 2022. So now our doors see about 40,000 people a month.
Wow.
And that's not even counting all of the big events that we host. And we're just trying to bring more events that, people in our community have never seen before, So, and, yes, we have, we do have a lot of the Hasidic events, but now we're bringing in, we have the Id here, we have the Panamanian, the Panamanian events here. So now we just try to bring Crown Heights and what it is as far as its culture and the makeup of the community into the building by having so much of these different types of events out in the building.
That's
So
dope.
it's a lot. It's so much.
Yeah. That is dope. And now I understand why you were nominated to be a Black King, because of all of the things that you have kind of helped everyone to do. So switch gears just a little bit and talk about your involvement and your engagement with Juneteenth NYC. You were one of our Black Kings. You were an awardee this year. Can you share, if any, how that may have impacted you personally and or professionally?
I was crying. I was like, "Who nominated me?" I said, what was I doing? I said it really mattered, to my team, and just because the job that we do is like a thankless job, and you really don't kind of like think about. You don't think about that. You don't think of you're not doing it for accolades, right? You're not doing it for like anything. So like when I was nominated, I felt good about it. I really was happy about it. I was very surprised. I didn't know my team felt like this about me. And afterwards, they was like, "Yeah, Mahmoud, like you gotta like put some respect in your name, right?" And I'm like, "Okay, okay." I was like, "Okay," because I didn't really think that. It's thankless, in operations and all the things that you do is like it's thankless, and it was just thankless.
Well, we were glad to be able to honor you, and we look forward to be able to honor others like you. And we hope that you'll nominate some people who have similar sentiment to your energy, because, like you said, it is a thankless role where we are serving our community, where we are being our authentic selves. We are being who God just predestined us to be. We're living out our purpose. But for other people to see that and to see your heart in it. And like you shared, I'm just being me. That is just being who you really are.
And that's scary. That's the scariest thing. It's just like I'm able to just be me, and like nobody's nobody's like really saying like, "Oh, that's a problem," and like that's like mind blowing to me, right? Because like I come in all this.
So what did you think about? I mean, I'm curious because you keep saying you've mentioned that, right? So what did you see, or what did you see in other people that made you think that you being yourself was odd or not like normal?
You have to be this like perfect, say exactly what they want to hear kind of person. You have to look a certain way, dress a certain way. When I'm interviewing for things, I had to put on my suit out, and I had to make sure I was clean cut. I had to make sure every word I said, even though I grew up as a Caribbean American person, I had to make sure that I spoke properly, right? Like things like that. So and then my complexion is very dark. So like it was very hard for like dark skin from my understanding of when I was getting jobs, it was very hard for like dark skinned men or just dark skinned people, to get jobs. And that was all in my head. So when I went in, I made sure that I looked at her. I looked the part. I spoke the part. But like, I'm in meetings now. I'm like, and I'm slinging. I'm talking some slang, and I'm like, that's okay. And nobody's, and that's okay. And maybe just because I work in a nonprofit kind of community kind of field, that's okay. But I know in some corporate environments, guys, that might not fly still. but like I'm just able to be in this space here and this space allows me to be who I am, and it's not looked down upon. If I am stressed, if I'm tired, it's okay, right? If I can say that if I need time away, it's okay, right? If I can talk about like the anxiety that comes with the pressure and how people and everybody has anxiety. I can talk about like the therapy that I go to, not because like I'm like breaking down, but because I need help every day sometimes to understand how to deal with certain situations based on my upbringing from childhood and things like that. So there's a lot of different aspects that people talk like people. This is in a Caribbean background. What is anxiety? You don't get stressed out. You go hard. You're not. What is that? I don't know what you're talking about. Like you don't. None of that make. I don't. That doesn't make sense, right? It's like you just go. You work your hardest, and that's what you're doing. You know, and that and I'm stuck in between like the generation that were like right before me and then me, and it's the difference between like you're working till you're 70 and you're retired, and then now it's like you don't have to really work until you to retire in one job. You can diversify what you do to bring in a bunch of different incomes and still be okay with that. You know, so that's where I'm. You know, I'm influenced by this, but I'm also like be exposed to this. So yeah.
I love it. Yeah, you do. That's part of that diverse culture, right? And in being in spaces. So I love that you shared about how the change in upbringing has been different for a lot of us. And I feel like us parents in this space, you know, we have our parents looking at us like, yeah, that's not how I would have done it, or that's not how I did it. And, you know, or you gotta beat them. Beat them. Right? Yeah. And we're in this space of like, let's talk it out. Like, what's wrong? Like, maybe we should go to therapy.
That's hard for me because like I did come up in a strict and like I mean, the women in my family were like bosses. They were like they like, and like, so when I'm raising my kids, I'm like, my daughter slammed the door and it's like, you like
fighting yourself.
And in your mind, like, it's okay for her to express herself if that's the way she feels. But like, though, me doing that when I was a child was never a thing. Like, I'm not slamming any doors, and I'm not, you know, I'm not talking when an adult is having adult conversations, and I'm not able to say that I'm sad and things like that. Mm-hmm. You know, just because of my family, my father being from Grenada and like coming from the farm, and they're just everybody worked together in the family. They had to do. My mother coming from Jamaica, and you know, everybody just working hard, even at a young age, like when they were 13 and 14, working hard. That's why I had a summer youth job at 13, right? That's why I used to cut grass when I was a young kid, because I never feeling like I needed anything. Never feeling I was poor, right? Even though my family was poor, you know, like never feeling like that, because like I always was like, I found a way to make $10, $20 summer youth. You know, I found a way.
Yeah, that work ethic. Something I feel like the kids today do not have.
I mean, I wouldn't say all. I hire a lot of younger people than me.
Okay.
And I've been able to find, and thank gosh, I've been able to find like some really great like people that are very young and that's very good at what they do. And I really try to find, and if they're not as good, I really try really hard to develop them, meet them where they are, and develop them and grow and push them. And no matter if they want to quit from working with me, I wouldn't let them. I said, you're not quitting. I don't care what you say. I wouldn't let them quit. And then I said, I know it's hard. I said, but that's how you kind of close that gap, because you have to, because people at certain ages are far advanced because of the opportunities they have, because of the, their backgrounds and cultures of how they grew up, their family and their upbringing, and their, just them having more privilege than people from other neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't let them give up. I would push them hard. If you didn't know how to use a computer or systems or at all, now like my operations manager, when he first started working with me, didn't use any computers, no Excel spreadsheets, nothing. And right now, that's all he uses now. Like it's you have to just meet everybody where they are, but you have to have. I'm just a different type of person as I say a leader, or I don't like to put myself as a leader, but as a colleague amongst the people that I work with, to make sure like they all are okay, right? And they all are kind of protected, and they feel like it's okay for them to make mistakes, because I was taught not to make any mistakes. So I try to create that kind of environment.
See, and you talking about you don't know why they nominated you. Look, the changes that you've been able to make in people. What I'm hearing you say about how you are pushing, you're coaching, you're mentoring, encouraging, like that is exactly the type of people that we like to highlight, because there's so many people that are out there doing great things like that, and it's not widely known, it's not widely shared. So I thank you for accepting the call. I thank you for continuing to be who you are in the community, and I implore you to keep doing it and keep encouraging others to move up the ranks, so that when you are ready to move out before you retire, that there's someone equally as good able to come in that space as well.
Yep. And my last word is not my people mentor me too. Like they teach me too. Like it's not just me mentoring them, or not even thinking that I have an influence. My team have a big influence on me. They help me get through tons of situations where I'm like super upset, erratic, and they're like, Mahmoud, they'll bring me into a room. People that, I say I'm the director, I'm the manager director, but we have this open dialogue, this transparency to say, Mahmoud, this is how you can handle it. This is how you can approach it, because this is why you hired these different people with these different qualities, because we all kind of work together to get through a different thing,
Moody is the man. He has been looking out for the youth for a long time, changing lives. Okay, I love that. So we are coming to the end of our time. It's already almost an hour. So as we are heading, I have two questions for you. One is, what does Juneteenth mean to you? And you can answer that one first.
Okay. Juneteenth means to me, it just means a celebration of freedom, like a reminder of like kind of the ongoing journey towards true equality. Again, it's a time to reflect on the progress and like the work that there remains. Like we want to make sure that all voices are heard and valued, and that's what Juneteenth means to me. And I think that's what we're here for, to make sure that we're heard.
I love that. All voices are heard and valued. Thank you for that. And lastly, what's one takeaway you hope everyone leaves here learning about you, about the Major Owen Center, and being intentional with their Black voice?
It's the power of authenticity. It's like one of the takeaways that your voice is shaped by like your unique culture, and it's invaluable. And kind of being intentional and true about to yourself, like it enriches your professionalism, and it helps the journey that you create. And like it creates, and just know that you doing that creates more inclusive spaces for others. I think that's some of the key takeaways I hope people take away from this this conversation.
Well, thank you for that, Mahmoud Fleary. We appreciate you. We thank you for joining us and coming on, and we look forward to future partnerships between yourself, Major Owens, and Juneteenth NYC. Most definitely. So I'm gonna jump in and just talk a little bit about our board. This week is our last week to have. We're looking for advisory board members. So we are excited about that. We are almost full as a team, and as you met and engaged with a lot of our advisory board members this weekend, Mahmoud. We have people in different areas, different skill sets. If you consider yourself to be someone who is a leader or wants to get more exposure, build up your experiences, fashion shows, safety and hygiene. That's like making sure that things are clean and clear. So we have a lot of individuals who love that space. And sponsorship, you're good at building relationships. Being a vendor lead, being able to, again, build relationships with businesses, help to encourage them to be their best selves. Event production, we have so many different parts of what we do that surrounds itself around event production. We have our kids zone, so if you love the children and you want to create activities, activations for them to keep them engaged. If you love being a part of things like this summit, we also have our virtual summit that we do, and we're looking for people to join in that space. So this week in September 1st, which is Sunday, is our last day that we are starting to take applications. So if you are interested, please go to our website, JuneteenthNY.com, and we will go through the application process there. And then next, we have our AR business expansion, which is my company, which I have been very fortunate to have put together for the last couple of years, and really based on my experiences with entrepreneurs during this time. Throughout my 16 years of working with business owners, I've learned so much about how to support them and how to encourage them, and I've been successful with over 800 people in helping them to expand their business. And a lot of that comes with people just not having the right things in order to be able to systemize their business, to be able to put things in order. We are doing things ourselves, and we're not prepared for opportunities when they come our way. So if you are interested, please scan the link on the site, and we look forward to learning a little bit more about you. And that is all for me, everyone. Thank you very much. Please go to our website, JuneteenthNY.com, for more details about our lineup, other events that we're doing. Follow us on social media. That's Juneteenth NY, Instagram, and on Facebook. And let's celebrate unity, resilience, and progress together as we honor Juneteenth in the heart of New York City. Thank you so much, Mahmoud Fleary, for joining us, and it has been my pleasure. Have a great Thursday and a great weekend. And happy Labor Day! I feel like I should have me my flags. Enjoy. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.
All right, bye-bye.
What's going on, Juneteenth family?
I have to take the lead, because if I don't now, when will I do it?
These are all dance groups, mixes from since 90.
And risks are important. Risk creates results.
Make sure that you surround yourself with not only the word, but with positivity.
Foremost, for having me on for lunch and learn.
We start off by wearing all of the hats. Pun intended right there with the hats.
But we start special needs children and civilians.
I have over 30 years plus experience as a quality professional.
We basically reconstructing what we took part in deconstruct. All the street maintenance. That's how we came up with street maintenance.
I almost had to deal with MCA Records at the age of 19.
Wait a minute.
I also partner with other daycares. We're not in a competition yet. We're not in a competition.